You're watching LifePoint.tv with Pastor Jeff Wilson. Today, Pastor Jeff continues with part 2 of Facing Your Fears.
How many have ever watched a film that has this action sequence in it? Are you ready? There is a bomb on a timer that a villain has planted, so the hero has to find the bomb. Anybody watched something the other night had that. But once he locates the bomb, he has to disarm it, and the clock is ticking. Which is it? Cut the red wire, cut the green wire, and it's 10, 9, 8, 7. And when does he usually cut the right wire? It is at 1 second. Isn't that how it goes? Fear, facing your fear. Fear is kind of like that. It's like a bomb, a hidden bomb that has been secretly planted. This is why you've got to locate it. This is why we're going to define fear, what it is, and then we're going to disarm it. Jesus describes Satan as being a sneaky devil. How many of you say that applies? He actually did. He kind of was, and I started thinking about it, I said, this is kind of like a terrorist endeavoring to sow destruction without getting caught. How many know that terrorists work hard at being undercover? I mean, they're not walking around saying, "Hi, I'm a terrorist." Right? The devil's not walking around here, "I'm the devil, I'm here to destroy you." Oh, come on in. It's not how it works. In Matthew 13, it says this. Here is another story Jesus told. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted good seed in his field, but that night as the workers slept, notice sneaky, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat, then slipped away. And then Jesus goes on to say and to define who this is. The enemy who planted the weeds among the wheat is the devil. This is why Paul, the Apostle Paul, in writing to the church at Corinth, he said this, "For to this end I also wrote, that I might put you to the test, whether you are obedient in all things, lest Satan should take advantage of us." Now notice the key, "for we are not ignorant of his devices." The Amplified says, to keep Satan from getting the advantage over us, for we are not ignorant of his wiles and intentions. A wile is a seductive trick meant to trap someone and to put them under bondage. But what is the answer? We're not going to be ignorant of his devices. How many of you say that the enemy probably uses worrisome fear, anxiety, and worry and these kind of things as a device? Does that make sense? All right, so we're working on this not being ignorant, discovering and disarming this negative stuff that can do damage in our lives. Now, I'm going to focus on a word today. For a while here, you might think, why is he just talking about this simple word? It's a 3-letter word, and it is the word N-O-T. How many know what that spells? Not. And I want you to do something today. If I happen to put up my finger like this, I want you to say back to me, "Don't do that." How many can do that this morning? A little early, sir. On that, if I... Don't do that. Are you sure? Okay. Oh, you guys are awesome. Right here. Jesus, when it came to worry, which leads to fear, he simply said, now watch this, Matthew 6:34, we're looking at it again, "Do not worry." What is that sound? How many say that sounds so simple? Do not worry, and in this case, about tomorrow. Now, let's think about this, all right? Let's say someone was worrying about tomorrow, and Jesus himself comes up to them and asks, "What are you doing?" And they say, "I am worrying about tomorrow." What would he say to them? Would he say, A, "Hey, that's great, keep on doing that"? Or would he say, B, "Don't do that"? Well, why not? It must be that doing that is harmful to our lives. Here's another illustration. Let's say a child was endeavoring to stick a fork into an electrical outlet. And you came up to the child and asked, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the child replied, "I am endeavoring to stick this fork into this electrical outlet." What would you say? A, "Hey, that's great. Keep on doing that." Or B, "Don't do that." How many? I didn't raise my finger. How many would say, don't do that? Would you say it because you care? And would you say it also because you know they are in the process of doing something that is about to change their life drastically for the worse, right? Their hair is getting ready to change and to go up. What is another way of saying? So I was looking at this. Okay, this is too simple. Let's keep looking at this. Not. And I found out another way of saying don't do that would be the word stop or stop it. Now we're getting somewhere here. We're really talking about spiritual authority once we start getting down in here. To stop something means to halt the motion or progression of something, or to cause something to desist or change course, or to discontinue or to cease in something, as in stop running, stop arguing, stop crying, stop complaining, or in this case, according to Jesus, stop worrying about tomorrow. You need to stop this. And we know in Matthew 6, like we said, Jesus was speaking to people who had already gotten caught up in worrying and in fear about tomorrow. And he begins to tell them, you need to stop this. You need to put a stop to it. Sounds like he's authorizing it, doesn't it? I'm giving you the authority to put a stop to this. You can stop it. I'm not going to stop it for you necessarily, but I'm going to back you up. You need to stop this. And worry, because, and don't mean to be offensive this morning, but he said, "O ye of little faith," to worriers. Amen. Don't do that. He said it to worriers. And the word worry was talking about, I looked at it more. It comes from Reagan, an old English word. It actually literally meant at one time a wolf who gets hold of a sheep by the neck and chokes it in order to kill it. How many here, if you love someone and they were offering their neck to a wolf, how many would say, now some of you didn't say it at that time. I don't know how much you love that person. Here, Wolfie, Wolfie, come take my neck, do damage. Don't do that. So, here's what it's all. In order to stop something, how many know it means we have to take action? There comes a time, there comes a day when we have to take a stand against that something in order to halt its motion or progression, because if not, whatever it is will keep on keeping on and doing its damage in our life. Did you watch the BCS College Football Championship game? After Auburn's field goal made it 24-20, Florida State's returner Levant Whitfield took the ensuing kickoff 100 yards to give Florida State a 27-24 lead and eventually the win. I want to ask you a question. Why? Very deep. No one stopped him. Did you play high school football? Any play football? Missed tackles. How many know the coach just loved missed tackles? Oh man, we had to do some running if we missed tackles. Especially if we admit, if we kind of, don't hurt me, just kind of. I played wide receiver and I would run away. I shouldn't tell it myself. Small school, wide receiver, and then safety. So I was the last guy, before he got a touchdown. I used to love it, man. They would do all the tackling for me up front. I mean, yes, glory to God. But every once in a while, he would escape and start coming towards me, and I'm the last guy. And I'm like, dude, I only weigh 170 pounds. But if I didn't want to run all week, I had to stop that guy. Could it be that God has authorized us to do something about these criminal spirits called worry and fear? Isn't that what Israel did at Jericho? Didn't they put a stop to what was happening there? Is this what David did at the Valley of Elah when he put a stop to Goliath's trash talk, his opinion? How many know that Jesus goes on to say, take no thought. Don't take these worrisome thoughts. Stop them. This opinion that's coming at you, stop it. Is that what David did with Goliath? How many know what trash talk is? You play like your mama. Something like that. Well, I'm sorry, your mama might play real well. But you know how trash talk goes. David put a stop to that. Fear's trash talk. He took a stone, knocked him out, and then went and cut the man's head off with the guy's own sword. How many would say that that is one way to stop somebody's negative opinion? What'd you say? Don't take it. Stop it. Over 300 times in the Word of God, the word not in some way is connected to the words worry, fear, or being afraid. Actually, I'm going on the low end. There's probably around 500. Just the word fear not is in there about 158 times. Do not worry. Do not fear. Do not be afraid. I wonder if God is trying to send us a message. Over 300 times. Here's an example of one. Joshua 1, verse 8, and then verse 9. They're connected. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way, your tomorrow, prosperous, and then you will have good success. Next verse. Have I not commanded you in my book over 300 times? Have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage? Here's just one out of 300. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Does that include 2014 in the Miami Valley of Ohio? Yes. Now, don't misunderstand what's happening here. God is not telling us to deny reality. Fear will come. Worry will come. I mean, you can just be standing there driving down the street and all of a sudden you're worrying. Have you ever caught yourself? Like, man, where is that coming from? Or something just comes and attacks and you're feeling it. God is not saying deny that you're feeling afraid. Deny that worry is there. He's saying when it comes, when you are feeling it, you can do something about it. You can put a stop to it. And I was looking at this. That means we have two options if this is the case, if it's a command to fear not. Two options. How many have ever heard of fight or flee? And this is really what it's going to come down to. And I was looking at my own life. I'm looking at, I don't want to get all personal, but just the times of fleeing and running and hiding and all this. And I'm 47 years old. Somebody went, shh. Do you see the gray on my chinny chin chin? I'm beginning to look like my pug Elvis. You know how they say owners look like their dogs eventually? Or vice versa. And there's something about this subject. When I start studying, it's like I keep coming, the Lord keeps bringing me back. Anybody here ever done that before? Feel like the Lord keeps bringing you back to a certain something? You need to look at this again. You need to look at this again. Your answer is right here. You need to look at this again. And when I start to look at it, there's an encouragement that comes. I begin to see it. You begin to see through some of this deception that fear does. And I'm not talking about practical fear, common sense fear. We all understand that if a car's coming, you fear and you get out of the way. We're talking about something where you begin to believe the worst. How many have heard fear the worst? Fear the worst, where you begin almost like a magnet. You begin to reach out into the future and you start wanting to pull in the worst. I'd rather reach out into the future and start pulling in the best, the good, the blessing, and the protection. Fight or flee. In 2014, we are going to fight. Obviously, fear is something that's not good. This is why Jesus said, don't do it. You must stop it. And here's the good news, guys and gals. I don't think Jesus would tell us to do something we couldn't do. Right? He must be authorizing us to do something about it. That's why it's a command from the top down. It's coming from God's kingdom on high to his children, to us here below. It's a deputizing. It's a command. An easy example would be the law, our government. They have authorized policemen, women, to act in their name, correct? Our police force, they are backed by our government in the name of the law. It's not just them, and it's not just how they feel. How many here have ever been pulled over by a police officer? You were stopped. Did he stop you? How many of you said, no big deal, just a police officer, and kept going? And you subconsciously know that you're not just getting in trouble with him. You might not think about it at the time. You're getting into trouble with what is backing him. You know, he's just representing something. And that's where we are. How many have heard this? In the name of Jesus. How we have been off. And it's not about, and here's where we miss it, and this is where I've missed it. We base it on feelings. Well, I don't feel like I have any power. I don't feel like I have any authority. Do you think police officers ever feel bad? What if a police officer came up to your car after he pulled you over? You know, I'm just having a bad day. I just don't feel like I have any power or authority. So just go on. Does it really matter how he feels? No. Is he still authorized? Yes. Ooh-wee. He still has the power. Many times the word power in the scriptures, we've gotten off track because we think power, and it actually means authority, or delegated authority. I mean, if he sees a criminal robbing a bank and coming out, he says, well, I'm not going to chase him. You know, I just don't feel it. You know, I yelled at my wife yesterday and missed it, and I just feel bad today. I'm not going to arrest him. How many know he can get in trouble for doing that? It's not based on feelings. In the Great Commission, Jesus said, go. Go in my name. And it's just all about authority, authority, authority. And this is why he says stop. David did this, remember? It wasn't in his own name. We talked about it last week. David replied to fear the Philistine. You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies. So it wasn't just David, it was what was backing him. Let's get to the practical. That's just a definition of fear. We know it's bad. Don't do that. Stop it. How can we apply this? How can we begin to turn 2014, turn and begin to face fear? First thing we talked about last week, how to face fear, is to turn and yell. And I mean that yell in two senses. Number one, raise your voice in authority and command fear to go. Reject fear intensely verbally. Don't be passive, but speak up. And secondly, to yell means to make some noise, as in praise. Number two, second way we can face fear in 2014. Begin this process of absolute freedom. Number two, yell, and then number two is laugh. You just, what? Laugh. L-A-U-G-H. Do you understand that I'm taking a Christianese phrase, shout for joy, and changing it to yell and laugh? Is that not what it means? Shout, yell, for joy, laugh. Laughter. In looking at this, I've noticed it is very hard for joy and laughter and worry and fear to coexist. They don't hang out a lot together. Listen to this in Psalm 35 and 27. Let them shout for joy, yell and laugh, and be glad, who favor my righteous cause. And let them say continually, the Lord be magnified, who has pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. Prosperity here means you're going to make it and be blessed, and that God himself takes great delight in your making it and being blessed in 20 and 14. So shout for joy and be glad. Yell and laugh. That's what it says. Proverbs 17:22. A merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. Amplified. A happy heart is good medicine, and a cheerful mind works healing, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. Listen to the CEV. A joyful heart helps healing. Wow. Healing from joy in the heart. Listen to Proverbs 15:15. It explains why and how this works. All the days of the desponding and afflicted, sad and depressed, are made evil, that is troublesome, by anxious thoughts and fearful forebodings. No, notice this again. Let me read it again. All the days of the desponding and afflicted are made troublesome by what? Anxious thoughts and fearful forebodings. But notice what's the answer? But he who has a glad heart has a continual feast regardless of circumstances. How many know what the word feast means? Partay. How many like that word? Partay. A continual, some of you are not sure, dear brother Christian. Partay regardless of circumstances. Oh my. Don't you remember the great song, My Girl Wants to Party All the Time? Who do remember that song? Do you remember that? 5 people. The rest of you are just looking. I read an article by Teresa Bocard called 9 Ways Humor Can Heal. She is a contributor to BeliefNet.com along with Joel and Victoria Osteen. Heard of them? Ruth Graham and Jay Sekulow and others. She starts by saying, of all my tools to combat stress, humor is by far the most fun. And just like mastering the craft of writing, I'm finding that the longer I practice laughing at life, especially at its frustrations, the better I become at it. How many just heard the word practice? I happened to have a can of soda in the back seat of my car that my son had placed in the side pocket. How many know that it got cold? That it got really cold. The other day I went out to my car. I opened my front door, and there was all this ice on the front seat and the passenger seat, and it was a yellowish green color. And at first I thought, yellow snow? Did my dogs get in my car? I did. I was really freaking out. What happened here? And then I looked in the back, and it was completely covered and on the ceiling. It was just all over. But thank the Lord, it was ice. And I looked, and in the side there was a green can of soda that had completely, like a bomb, exploded. And the first thing I did, I remembered this, and it's like the Lord brought it to me. Practice laughing. Last thing I wanted to do. I wasn't feeling that. So I got that. I started wiping it down. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha. Ha, ha, Ian. Ha, ha. And you know, by the time I was done with that, I was going, look at this. Look at this. This is hilarious. I'm going to go plant one in my dad's car. But it was warming up, and I thought, it's not going to work, you know. It just changed my perspective on it. Teresa goes on to talk about how and explains how, citing proven medical testing, how humor can comfort a person, relax, reduce pain, and boost the immune system. For example, in 2006, researchers led by Lee Burke and Stanley A. Tan at Loma Linda University in Loma Linda, California, found that two hormones, beta endorphins, which alleviate depression, and human growth hormone, HGH, which helps with immunity, increased by 27 and 87% respectively when volunteers anticipated watching a humorous video. Simply anticipating laughter boosted health-protecting hormones and chemicals. Humor can reduce stress, spread happiness, cultivate optimism, and help communication within relationships. But the number one thing she talked about, which stood out to me, she said this: humor combats fear. And she went on to talk about her own personal life, how there was a time in her life many years ago where she had a nervous breakdown and had to receive help and care. And she said this, and this was one of the things that helped her to get out of it. Now she's writing articles and as an author and working with those things. I know this firsthand, having sat in the community room of a psych ward watching a video of a comedian poking fun at depression. Like everyone else in that room, I was scared to death of many things. That I would never smile again or love again or even want to love again. I was fearful of life. But humor disengages fear because it changes your perspective both on the past and the present. Laughter forces a few steps, some much needed distance between a situation and our reaction. Praise and connection with yelling and laughing and shouting for joy are powerful weapons against the enemy. And I'm closing with this last verse, Psalm 5 and 11. But let all those who take refuge and put their trust in you rejoice. Let them ever sing and shout for joy, yell and laugh, because you make a covering over them and defend them. Let those also who love your name be joyful in you and be in high spirits. How many in 2014, even if we're not feeling it, we're going to work on it and we're going to start shouting for joy and letting it out, yelling and laughing. And man, when you're going down the street and depression, all this stuff's trying to get on you, it's hard for that to coexist if you start lifting your voice and laughing. And it won't be long, you might even find yourself laughing in the spirit, which is what I think is here is what you're going to watch in a second. This is a video, a clip. I think it continues to go on after we end it. But it's a video of a young child, a baby actually, laughing. And looking at it, I don't even think the baby can talk yet. And I was this subject and looking at it, I said, you know, it seems to me that before words are even in a baby's mouth, there is laughter. And I started asking myself, man, that must be God. There must be this joy or this energy, this something that God puts in the spirit of a child even before they're born. And it begins to just come out. And I'm telling you, it's in there. It's in every one of you, born again Christian. It's down in there. How many heard stir up the gift? It's in there. And it just begins to flow out. And I was watching, and I just said, man, that's anointed. It's powerful. Though it's goofy. Because she's laughing at a dog eating popcorn. How many know that's really not that funny? But to this little baby, it is. Tell me, remember, fear and joy, they can't hang out together.
She just loves it. Thank you for tuning in to LifePoint.tv. We hope you're enjoying our current series, Facing Your Fears. If you'd like to learn more about LifePoint Church, you can download our free app through Google Play or the App Store. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo, YouTube, Roku, or of course at our website, lifepoint.tv. We hope to see you next time.